just because we as a society have failed to address the demand problem, it seems to me we are saying we surrender if we go that route. And I hope that you have seen one of the drugs that comes across this border and is used heavily is methamphetamine. I hope all of us have seen pictures of what methamphetamine does to people in a very short period of time. So would I want to control methamphetamine? I don't think so. It's one of the most highly addictive drugs that there is, and there's huge meth factories down in Mexico that are putting this stuff out. But look, your point about addressing the demand side is very valid, and we should feel some sense of guilt that we haven't done more as a society to reduce that demand. But to say, therefore, because we failed there, that we should then, quote, control it, I don't know how you control methamphetamine. I don't know how you control an addictive drug like that.
It's not just for the cartels, it's about money, and it's about power. So regardless what the product is, it isn't about just marijuana. Literally, you're talking black tar heroin, you're talking meth, highly addictive, destructive drugs. So whatever it is, even if taking your points and you bring it to all the way to the end, it's going to be something else because it's about money and it's their influence and it's part of the corruption that's really taken hold to a narco, borderline terrorist state in Mexico just to our south. It's a terrific threat to our country. How many hundreds of people, and this is the other reason that the senator has often spoke to, we must secure our border. And it's not just because of illegals who are coming in and the effect to our society and to crime and to the cost of all these things. It's not that we're not the most generous nation on the face of the earth. We are. The very strength of America is the fact that we're a nation of immigrants, legal immigrants. But the fact that we have literal hundreds of people from countries of interest. A country of interest is a nation state who has professed, who has stated things against the United States that threaten us, that sponsor terrorists. These aren't people just from Mexico or Central America. Try Syria, try Iraq, try China, try other nations from all over the world, and this is where it baffles us at how we can be the strongest nation and the strongest military on the face of the earth, and yet we somehow, our administration says, oh, we can't solve this. We have to, and our nation can address this, can solve it. We've proven it in Yuma. There's not a soldier there. The threat of jail has stopped. They're not putting everybody in prison. The threat of it has stopped, and the same thing is the deterrent of the soldiers here. Bring those things, and this is what we're talking about, for all the national security reasons, not just drugs, not just illegals, national security, secure the Tucson sector. The plan works. You should read into it a little bit, everybody, just to get a sense of that as well.
I'm going to say, and I know that there's many others who would like to speak, but the conversation we're having is a conversation we have to have nationally. And I appreciate the fact that you're making an input into this dialogue, because the status quo of this demand that's being created in the United States is not acceptable. But I also hope that Paul could describe that it's a larger issue than just the drugs coming across. That's one part of this huge problem, and it really does also boil down to national security. There are going to be people that want to do bad things to America for as long as any of us are around. And so that alone argues for getting the border secure. Yes, sir.
You talked about putting 6,000 troops on the border, which you put an amendment to the Defense Authorization Bill to do. But there's also an amendment that Don't Ask, Don't Tell be repealed, and you're on the record as saying that you will filibuster the Defense Authorization Bill because of the Don't Ask, Don't Tell. How can you put a bill onto an amendment into a bill that you say yourself you're going to filibuster and put ads on TV saying you put the amendment there, but not ads saying that you're going to filibuster the amendment?
Because there are a number of provisions in that bill that I strongly disagree with, including an amendment that says that abortions would be can be done in military hospitals, something that we have not done since 1993, and I'm strongly opposed to. In the House bill, there's an alternate engine for the F-35, that I oppose to that as well. That's why we go to the floor with the bill and have amendments and debates and votes. And that's why we also go to conference with the House of Representatives and see, to try to get those things done.
Okay, why will you not? There's been over 15,000 service members who have fought overseas in the country, all the way from George Washington's lieutenant up until currently. Why do you have a problem with people who want to serve this country and serve it proudly and serve it openly, and an institution that is supposed to be about honor, respect, and be about openness, and you have a problem with them being open to who they are?
I have a big problem with repealing a piece of legislation, it's a law, without assessing and surveying the effects on the morale, the battle effectiveness, and the recruiting and retention of men and women in the military. I have a big problem with that.
And that policy will
Without,
not be
are you
implemented.
going to let me respond?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I have a big problem with not surveying and analyzing and studying the issue and what that effect is. And that is also the view of the 4 service chiefs. The Chief of Staff of the Air Force, the Army, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, and the Chief of Naval Operations. That is their view as well, that we need to survey the impact on it. We're in 2 wars. It's not that the don't ask, don't tell policy is working, my friend. It's all about a campaign promise made by President Obama, then candidate Obama, to the gay and lesbian community. That's what it's all about. We have the highest morale, the highest retention, and the highest recruitment in the military today than we've had in the history of the all-volunteer force. So, because of a campaign promise made by President Obama, then we're going to change that policy without even assessing the effect on the men and women in the military, what needs to be done to implement it, whether it will affect battle effectiveness or morale or not. All of those things are being preempted by the Obama administration. I want a study done, and a serious study done, to assess the impacts. That's my position, and I'm not going to change it.
The study has to, the amendment that was put on the floor says the study has to be done. The Joint Chiefs of Staff have to sign off on it. Admiral Miller has to sign off on it, and Obama has to sign off on it before it ever does. And if it affects any of the things you said, it cannot be implemented.
Sir, it doesn't.
Yes, it does, sir.
It cuts out, sir, I'll be glad to provide you with it. It does not include the 4 service chiefs, period. I'll be glad to provide that to you. It does not. It does not, sir. I mean, I guarantee I'll show it to you in writing. It cuts out the service chiefs. It says the President, the Secretary of Defense, and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff shall make that decision. And the repeal would take place, and then the assessment would take place. So we have a fundamental difference of opinion. And, sir, I don't question your facts, but I know the facts because I was there. You're not. And so I can tell you that it cuts out the 4 service chiefs, and I want to know what the impact on morale and battle effectiveness is before we change this policy. I don't think that's a lot to ask. Yes, sir.
There's obviously a negative stigma towards legal immigration right now. I want to know your thoughts on guest worker programs and those people that are obviously here and that are contributing to the society but are scared because they are in fact illegal but would like to work and contribute, pay taxes and whatnot.
Yeah, sir, if you've got an email address, I will send you the text of the law that was, the legislation that was passed through the Senate Armed Services Committee this afternoon.
So your office has my email address because they arrested me for trying to talk to you. Because we were sitting in your office in Phoenix, waiting to talk to you, and you refused to speak to us. That's why we had a service member that was discharged.
When were you in my office?
It was about 6 weeks ago.
I'll be glad to send you the information. I'd like to Paul to weigh in on this, but I think we have to have in the agricultural sector and other sectors of our economy legal temporary worker programs. I was just down in Yuma yesterday. The growers down there that provide a lot of food for a lot of America for a long time said they simply can't get the workers. It's not possible for them to get the workers. So I think how it would work when you would advertise a job, American doesn't take it, enter into a contract with someone in another country, Mexico, they come and work for a period of time, then they have to go back to the country that they came from. and any employer who hired someone